Let's move on to RSL. RSL. Man, they're another one. Do they play games, or do they just exist? I don't know.
They make good scars.
They do. They do. Something that should probably be on screen right now, but whatever. That's what you got to do. You have to start hanging up every time you bring a new scarf in. You got to hang it up on the wall behind you, and we'll just make a whole scarf wall for you when you record.
When I move into my own place, then I'll do it.
Yeah, that's what I said too. When I get my own place, I'm going to have my own podcast area, and all my scarves are going to hang up around me. But tangents aside, Corey Baird's gone. We talked about him. That's probably a huge loss considering they also lost their only other striker, I think, in Giuseppe Rossi. Alvin Jones is gone. Luis Arriaga is gone. Andrew Putin is gone. Julian Vasquez is gone. And then the two big ones for me, Luke Mulholland, lifer, been there since 2014, retired and working front office staff. Didn't always, wasn't always a big, bright name there, but worked really nice with Beckerman, gave those blue-collar minutes in the midfield. And then Kyle Beckerman, RSL legend, MLS legend, USMNT legend. Locker room is going to be a tough replacement there, but that career is going to speak for itself. We don't need to dive in any farther there. They brought in 4 homegrown players, a draftee, and Rubio Rubin, who I think is a great signing. This is your like-for-like replacement on Mr. Baird if he hits. I know there was a lot of talk about him in the USMNT picture a couple of years ago, wasn't there? Pretty sure that he was rumored as one of those guys who could break through and just never did. Ended up with San Diego Loyal with Mr. Donovan, and I think it's a great signing. I'm happy with it. But my question for you lot is, no Kyle Beckerman. How hard is RSL going to need to fight to have a really strong locker room and a strong identity now without the guy who's been there forever? And I'll answer it myself because I haven't answered first in a little bit. And I love hearing the sound of my own voice. I think it's going to be real tough for him. He is RSL. He's been with RSL since RSL has been RSL, right? He's been the center of that midfield has always been dominated by Mr. Beckerman. And while he only played 11 games last year, they were awful when he wasn't there, right? So it's going to be tough, but also, again, having a guy who you have seen day in and day out for however many years just not be there anymore, it's going to be tough. It'll be really tough. Connor.
Yeah, I kind of think about it right now, similar to how you kind of mentioned for New England, where it's almost like a chance for them to rebrand and start with some new faces on the team, because this is like the last bit of like the Ramondo Beckerman era that's now moving on, and you move on to newer faces like Ochoa or Rubio Rubin. I think that they do have some veterans that can hopefully step up and fill that leadership void, like Damir Kralak, or hopefully like maybe Justin Glad steps up and has more of a leadership role.
Do it, yeah.
It will definitely hurt a bit because, yeah, I mean, he was the guy you think about for RSL. When you think about RSL, he was the guy. So I think they'll be all right, though. I think they'll figure it out.
Adam?
Yeah, I agree. I think Glad's going to he's, at least in my opinion, he's the most obvious one to kind of fill the captaincy role. Yeah, as far as the rest of, who they kind of brought in, this is going to be a rough season for RSL. Like, they weren't fantastic last season, and all homegrown guys who I'm sure are great. Is it enough? Probably not. But, someone's got to finish mid-table.
Oh, I love that. All right. Let's grade him then.
D.
Adam.
D, yeah.
Any reason?
Pretty much what I just said. I think just just focus on the homegrown guys isn't enough. I kind of think to me, that doesn't say let's take a step forward this year after a mediocre season last year. So
Sure. Connor?
I feel like it feels kind of generous to call their season last year mediocre. It was pretty bad season from them last year.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice.
I think that I would give them a D, and I'm kind of comparing them to Galaxy. I don't think that they lost as much as Galaxy lost, but it certainly feels like they gained as much as Galaxy gained because they really didn't add much to the team, and they were pretty much just as bad as Galaxy were last year. So because they lost probably slightly less than they did, I give them slightly higher grade. So I'll go with D.
I had him at a C-, but I probably should drop him to a D because I don't think Rubio Rubin is enough to get him in that C range. They needed midfield help. I am not a fan of Everton Luiz as a lone center defensive mid. I think he's just way too reckless to be there on his own, and they just didn't get it. So they're going to need to have somebody help him out, or they're going to be in a world of hurt. So I'll go D with you guys.